Cassius Clay was one of two sons born to what was considered a middle-class black family in Louisville, Kentucky. His father was a fairly loud, bombastic, sometimes bitter man, drank to excess. It was not a happy home.
In sports, he found a meaning and a discipline and a sense of belonging.
Inside a boxing ring, that was the one place where he could control his own environment. It was as though God was telling him, this is what you're supposed to do.
For young black men in their late teens or early 20s, growing up in the United States in the early 1960s, you were a citizen of the country, and yet everywhere you went, there were signs reading white and colored. Legal segregation of restaurants, restrooms, stores, hotels. Constant daily reminders that you were a second-class citizen.
Cassius Clay goes to the Olympics in Rome. He wins a gold medal, and he's very proud to be an American. Then he comes back to the United States, and despite having won the gold medal, there are still restaurants he can't go in. He's still called a nigger in some places. He's not happy with it. Then he signs with the Louisville Sponsoring Group, which is a group of wealthy white men in Kentucky. They hired a trainer, Angelo Dundee.
So they called me. They asked me how we would work with the kid over the phone. I said, very slow, I said, because the transition from amateur to pro takes time. They like that, so 20 minutes later they call me, the kid's be down tomorrow. He wants to fight.
He came here, a young man, wide-eyed, sparkling, smiling. He's in Miami. He never saw anything like Miami. He's with Angelo Dundee and everybody. He never saw anything like the Fifth Street Gym. That was an island of democracy in the middle of all this segregation.
Fifth Street Gym. Man, what a gym that was. Go up a flight of steps, rickety. Some fighters would get mad at something, bring a hold into the wall.
Cassius, how do you feel today?
Pretty good. How you doing?
I hear you met Don Juan today. How was he?
Yeah. He wasn't too friendly.
What do you have to say?
He didn't even shake my hand.
What are you going to do about that?
Now you must fall.
And everybody in the gym loved him. Loved him. Thought that was great. Everybody thought this is our guy. This guy's going to be the guy.
Well, Cassius, how do you rate yourself as a fighter?
Well, I wouldn't want to do too much bragging about it, but everybody that watches me fight or everybody that has witnessed one of my bouts, they say that I am the greatest that they've ever seen.
I got him a room at the Charles Hotel in Overtown.
Overtown is Miami's historic black community. It really was established in 1896 when the railroad came in and Miami was founded as a community. It was an absolute center of culture, education, social life. Anything you could get in Harlem, you could get in Overtown. It was just magnificent. Barbershops, restaurants, movie theaters, 5 or 6 of those. For many years, it was the very heart of black Miami. The civil rights movement started in Miami much earlier than it did elsewhere. That was a lunch counter sit-in in Miami before the one in Greensboro that started the whole civil rights sit-in phenomena. So Miami was really a little bit ahead of the civil rights movement.
Blacks had their own position, comfortable in themselves, and didn't pay attention to whites. And the whites did the same. The whites had their little Burdines and Jordan Martian. Don't come in here.
I took him shopping to one of the largest department stores in South Florida and in Miami, Burdines. There was some very nice shirts and they were on sale. And other people were trying them on. The salesman came over and said, "We don't allow blacks to try on clothes." I couldn't believe this. Here I am, supposedly in a more enlightened town. He's not trying on clothes in my store, and he isn't in any major department store in downtown Miami. At that point, Cassius pulled me in the sleeve, and we went over and talked, and he said, "Look, I don't want to get in this kind of trouble. The police will come, and that's going to be bad for me." So he said, "Let's go to there's nice stores in the black section," so he showed me where they were, and we bought him some really nice clothes at the and some neat shoes at the black store.
Racial segregation was not as severe as it was, say, in Atlanta or in New Orleans. But nevertheless, it still existed.
And the kid didn't have a car. A lot of times he would run across the causeway and come to the South Beach. One day the cops stopped him, big skinny kid running across the highway, helter-skelter. So I'm Angelo Dundee's fighter. And then they said, they called me up and said, I said, yeah, he is. They said, the great fighter.
She hit him with a left uppercut. I thought it was beautiful.
Angelo was the perfect trainer for Cassius Clay because he let Cassius be Cassius in and out of the ring. Angelo understood immediately that Cassius did things all wrong from a technical point of view, but he could get away with them because of his speed and his reflexes.
Well, I'm sure any heavyweight that follows me in the ring for 6 or 7 rounds, he's mine after that, if he's still standing.
The newspaper guys at first, his first 6 fights, they thought he was too awkward, pull back from punches, fast hand, don't move. They thought, too much. But I said, look, it'll smooth out.
One of the issues that the older sports writers had with him was his unorthodox style. He was leaning back and away from punches. Well, everybody knows that somebody just needs to step forward, you're off balance, and hit you.
He moved around so much that he really didn't get set, but he was usually moving so fast and concentrating on all the razzle-dazzle that he didn't show for quite a while that he could punch.
Angelo just tried to build on what Cassius Clay did naturally.
I made him feel he innovated everything, because you got to do that with star quality. So I'm just a flunky, I'm there showing them, do this, do that. But it worked. Come out of the ring one day, and I said, man, that jab of yours is really snapping that guy's neck back. You're getting it right in the small of his back. You're bending that knee perfect. Next day, he would do it.
That was a jab. That bip, bip, bip. He threw it like this. He didn't throw a jab like this. He flicked it. He called it snake licking. Bip, bip, and he moved. And all of a sudden, he stands still, and there went the right hand.
And he combined that velocity with the power of a heavyweight, and he created a whole new thing. We never saw a heavyweight fighter like that, and we have not since.
I mean, the first fights were like exhibitions that were so easy. Finish. I mean, he even took apart Archie Moore, who was a really clever fighter and hard to get out. He knocked him out.
But Archie Moore is going around popping off saying he's inventing a lip buttoner for me. See, I've earned a reputation as the Louisville Lip. Well, since he's going to invent a punch called the lip buttoner, and I'm the one who usually does the popping off, but he's starting, so I cut this from 8 rounds to 4 rounds.
You know how great I am. I don't have to tell you about my strategy. Let my trainer tell you. Bodini, come here. Bodini, tell him, what are we going to do? You're going to float like a butterfly and sting like a bee. Rumble, young man, rumble. That's what we're going to do. You heard it. That's my trainer. He'll tell you.
We would rhyme around the barbershop, and he came in and he started listening to that, and he said, this is going to be my gimmick.
He will be mine in round 9, and if he makes me sore, I'll cut it to 4.
Thank you very much.
And if that don't do, we'll get him in 2. If he run, we'll get him in 1. And in your heart, you know I'm right.
He wasn't that great a talker till he met Gorgeous George in Las Vegas.
I saw a wrestler once named Gorgeous George, and the place was jam-packed with people. Cars was lined up for miles. They hated Gorgeous George. They wanted him beat, but they paid $100 for a ringside seat. So Gorgeous George walked out with his pretty silver hair, and he was walking so proud, and people was woo, throwing popcorn at him. He said, you bums. He was hollering at the fans. I don't care nothing about you.
And I can't lose. If I lose, I'll cut all my blonde locks in the ring.
Look at my beautiful blonde hair. If he mess up this hair, I'll kill him. I'll annihilate the bum.
But I can't lose. I'm the greatest.
So I got this from Gorgeous George. I said, this is a good idea. Look, he's getting rich. So I start talking. I am the greatest. I cannot be beat. I'm too pretty to be a fighter.
What he's doing is he's taking the American culture, what's in the air at the time, and he invents something called Cassius Clay, the greatest. It's a self-creation. That's a very American thing. And Cassius Clay Muhammad Ali, to me, is writ large one of those self-invented American characters.
Cassius Clay understood that ultimately we're just hungry for copy. And so if you give us copy, as long as you give us copy, you can pull our strings and we have to write about you. And Cassius Clay was able to frame the story. The narrative was his.
They came to that Fifth Street gym and was like a magnet.
Yes, we parked right over here.
Everybody wanted to see this kid because he was something new, something bright. And Fifth Street Gym was the theater, it was the place.
I am the greatest.
The world was his stage, and wherever he went, that became his stage. It just so happened that Miami was the backdrop.
Everybody from New York, California, they wanted to come to Florida because of sun and fun.
We're on Miami Beach now. This is where all the rich people live.
All of commentators and sports writers, big columnists, radio, television people love to come to Miami, stay on Miami Beach.
A lot of Northerners were coming in. Jackie Gleason's nationally televised show was coming out of Miami Beach.
He brought Jackie Gleason around one night, Burt Lancaster. Oh, I can just go on and on naming the stars that came through.
When these great entertainers would finish their work on Miami Beach at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, they would come over to Overtown and they would go into the Harlem Square Club or some of the other clubs and then play until dawn, virtually for free.
And those places partied hard. It wasn't 2 seconds before the people in the ghetto said, leave him alone. He's going to be the heavyweight champion of the world. Don't offer him broads. Don't offer him booze. Don't give him a drink. Don't offer him pot. He doesn't smoke.
And the guy still lived in Overtown where he could have been a player, you know, and everything else. He abstained. He was something else, you know. A lot of people, you know, early in his career, they thought he was gay, for Christ's sake. There were so many girls around him, but he would train. He wouldn't mess around.
Boxing was a magnet for emotion and racial identity and the sense that this is one of ours, and people identified very heavily with boxers.
They just idolized him. Every move he took, there was crowds and crowds of kids.
He never did not have time for the kids. There were times in the community where he would set up on the front lawn movies, mostly fights, you know, of Cassius Clay, Muhammad Ali. But the old reel-to-reel, kind of ticker tape type stuff. And he'd have lawn chairs out and kids would sit in the grass. But we'd have, 20 or 30 community folk, mostly kids, out watching fight films on a Friday night or Saturday night. And it was just really, really special.
Clay now, look at him. He's got his arms down. He's contemptuously treating Cooper. His arms are down by his hips.
I knew that Henry Cooper was dangerous. Clay wasn't taking this fight serious enough. Because Cooper could hit. That was one thing Henry Cooper could do. He had a vicious left hook.
The bell has sounded, and he's up at about 3, Clay.
Oh, man, he got nailed. He got nailed.
Hit him about 2 seconds before the end of the round with the left hook.
Thank God the bell rang.
Too many, and he still doesn't know where it is. Half out, Clay.
Cooper should have won that fight.
And I believe that if Henry didn't cut so easy, he would have had a chance to be a champion.
He'd shown a weak chin. He'd been knocked down. He hadn't shown great punching power. And because he had played the role of the clown for so long with his poetry and his mugging and his gimmickry, people were inclined to not take Cassius Clay seriously as a fighter. In 1964, there was one heavyweight champion of the world. Liston was considered to be Godzilla. He was going to reign for 1,000 years.
And he was so good that nobody thought anybody in the world could ever, never, ever beat him. He was a badass guy, a bad guy.
Sonny Liston was an aggrieved, poor, cast-off, learned to box in prison, an adoptee of the mob when the mob completely dominated boxing. And Sonny Liston was the nightmare in the imagination of the frightened white populace.